I want to talk about building an attitude foundation. Because really, truly, we have to start with a foundation of anything that we're going to do in life. And so, how do we start changing that attitude foundation to be helpful, to be, healthy for us, so that we, use that to enrich our life and enrich other people's life. So, an attitude foundation starts with values. What values are important to you in your life? And we've got a few things here that we've pointed out. A value system is made up of principles of right and wrong that are accepted by an individual or a social group. And, sometimes some social groups have some values that maybe are not well-serving to the rest of the world. The Nazi communities that are still out there today, they probably have some values that they say that are good for the world, but in my personal opinion, I don't think they are. So when you set a value for yourself of what's right and wrong, I like to say that value is what's right or wrong for me. Now, obviously, if I'm hurting another person, then even if though I think it's right for me, if I'm hurting another person, it's not a good value. It's not a good system of how I interact with the rest of the people that I'm touching. So, but that's a foundation. The what's right and wrong and what principles really set a foundation for us to live our life by. Integrity. Zig Ziglar used to have a statement that he said, integrity is what you do in the dark. He said, to write a bad check in today's society, when you can write that check at 5:01, and at 5:02 they know that there's no money in that account. So that's not integrity. That's just stupidity. What you do in the dark is what's integrity. Did you see, and I'm just using an example, but did you see a $20 bill drop out of somebody's pocket and you rush to pick that up and give that to that person even though they didn't see it drop out of their pocket, and you could have just kept that $20 bill? Or do you make sure that you get that $20 bill back to that person? That's integrity. That's something that, so to speak, you've done in the dark. Nobody would have noticed, but you noticed. You know what's right and wrong for you. And so if you're not living your life in a manner that you feel good about, if you feel like you're ashamed about anything that you're doing in life, then that's something that you should need to take a look at the possibility of changing. How do I change that and make me more happy with whatever it is that I'm doing? And integrity is regarded as the honesty and truthfulness or accuracy of one's actions. I really, truly, when I was a young boy with all of that anger, I had more than one occasion where I, found that a candy bar at a local convenience store really needed to be in my pocket rather than being on the shelf. And I justified it to myself. I'm poor. I'm living in the ghetto of Chicago, and I don't get to have a candy bar. And that was my justification. But fortunately, I got caught a few times, and it wasn't a very fun situation. And so I learned through trial and error that I didn't like that. I didn't like the outcome of getting caught when I did those kinds of things. And so, I decided to be different and not continue that habit pattern. But unfortunately for me, I kind of bounced in and out of that habit pattern until I was probably about 18 years old. And so I could have said, hey, you know, this is pretty comfortable. I'm getting caught less and less as I'm getting older, and I'm figuring out, you know, how to do this a little bit better. And but I had the good fortune of having to spend an afternoon in a jail cell, and that scared the daylights out of me. And I say, in my opinion, it was really a great thing that I got to spend the afternoon in a jail cell, because that snapped that pattern for me of saying, I don't want to continue this habit pattern of getting caught, because, you know, what's it going to be next time? Because they were starting to get to be just a little bit bigger things. And so because I spent the afternoon in the jail cell before somebody bailed me out, that really changed my life again with that particular scenario. I wasn't living my life in integrity at the time. I was living my life in what felt convenient for me, and I justified what I was doing. It wasn't any justification, but I was trying. Discipline, self-discipline. You know, I mean, you know, if I could say, you know, one of the top 5 character traits that my mother gave me, discipline was probably one of them. And you know, I talk to people quite often that they'll say, you know, I'm just not as disciplined as you are. I just don't have the same ability to make myself do things that I really don't want to do. And I always say, you know, discipline is an acquired skill just like any other skill. You know, and you know, there again, just because I happen to be a little more disciplined doesn't mean that I don't have some shortcomings in another area. We all know from my earlier story that I definitely have shortcomings. But discipline is going to serve you well to grow that skill. Discipline allows you to do things when you don't always want to do them, but you know you must. And so by having that discipline, it keeps you on the track of heading down the direction of knowing that you have to do what you have to do. And you're able to get yourself to do it. But you know, it says here, discipline can be defined as the ability to motivate oneself in spite of external influences or negative emotional state. You know, we all have external situations. I mean, you know, the time that I got caught, that got to be just a little bit bigger was I was in a Kmart trying on shoes and walked out with I left my old shoes in the Kmart and I walked out with a new pair of shoes. Unfortunately, they caught me. But my now ex-wife, one of them.
You have to start doing numbers.
Okay, that was number 1. She really was encouraging me to put those shoes on and walk out. And I was allowing that external influence. There was no one that chose to do that but me. It was me that made the final decision, but I allowed that external influence to influence me, and I didn't live the integrity that I should have, and I allowed that external influence. And so, you know, we really have to change our influences. If we don't have as good of influences around us, we need to change some of that. But you know, the next one says, almost anything I get in life involving emotional experiences comes to me more indirectly rather than directly. It often comes to me as a result of doing something else. And you know, I talked about that a little earlier today in the schools with the gratitude coins. You know, I'm getting an indirect effect of where I wanted to go with what I was doing. But because I had the intention, I was going down a similar path, but now it's taken a very different sideline, but still going down a similar path. So, you know, as an example, one more indirect result that is happening is, you know, all of you know that I'm promoting a book, and I'm out doing book signings, and doing all of the natural promotion that goes along with doing this. And as I got out there, I saw, you know, all the big authors have a venue. They have a kind of a platform, you know, sort of a system. You know, maybe not quite so specific of a system, but they've got a system where they all help each other. And so I thought, you know, 1.5 million authors release books every year that really don't go anywhere. And yet these big authors, they sell millions and millions of books. And I got invited to a little bit of some of their circles, and I saw how they were doing some of this, and so I thought, I need to put a website together for other authors that helps them promote each other. Give them an opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise have to connect to this whole different community. So I started daydreaming, because I do that a lot, and I said, here's a daydream that I want to follow through on. I really want to get involved in. And so I went out to GoDaddy and I bought yourbooklaunch.com. And I started daydreaming about how could I put a community together of authors all over the world, of smaller time, medium size, maybe authors that would help each other, promote each other. And in fact, you should put some of your stuff out there, because you're promoting something that other people could use in whatever they're doing. And so I said, I'm gonna give this to the author community as a gift. And so I have a young man that does all my website work, and I talked to him and I said, how would you like to own part of a company? And he's 16, so he was pretty excited about that prospect. And so I said, I'll tell you what, if you will, I'm going to buy this engine, and if you'll write all of this stuff to go along with it, I'm going to give you 20% of the company, because you're going to have written all of this software for me. And so he said, I'm in, let's go for it. And so now, even though I set out to promote a book, I'm actually helping all kinds of other authors, and in fact Heather has got herself on Your Book Launch, because you never know, you know, there may be some authors out there that want to have some music along with the book trailer, and book trailers are becoming big things now, and so you know, artwork, people need to have artwork out there all the time, and so, you know, I want to have a lot of supporting things to go along with, because the whole point of this is authors helping other authors do better, promote each other, and help each other sell more books. So that all came from an indirect effort. I never intended to put yourbooklaunch.com together. I intended to go out and promote my book. But now we've had it out maybe 8 or 9 weeks now, and we already have 240 members from all over the world already. From Sweden to Germany to Australia to all over the U.S., England. You know, and it's just every week we're getting more and more people that are signing up, and more people that are in there interfacing, and they're talking, and they're getting to be friends with each other over the internet, and I'm helping other authors become more successful. And so, you know, as an example, there was somebody talking about that they wanted to start a literary agency, and so they were asking some questions about who's doing what here, and so somebody else answered and said, hey, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and here's some ideas that you could work with, and so they're already, just in 8 weeks, they're already helping each other. But that was never my intention. That was an indirect result of what I started out to do with my book. And so a lot of things come from indirect situations. And that's one of the reasons that I believe that it's really important to be flexible in where you're going in life. You have this one particular direction that you're going, and you definitely want to be very focused. You want to be on target to hit that goal. But sometimes some things just change a little bit, and sometimes you can either go out of business, or you can keep your eyes open and see that there's another business that will take you and be just as fulfilling as what you ever thought you were going to get started on. So I really like to say that I'm focused, but I also have my eyes open, because there's an old saying that says successful people are sort of lucky, but they're prepared to do whatever comes along, and they know when to take that right opportunity. Because you just never know. One of the things about an attitude foundation is happiness. A lot of people go through life and they're just not happy through their entire life. Sometimes I have to watch myself. I grew up in the ghetto of Chicago, so my language is a little ghetto challenge from time to time. But I mean, I've run across people that you just swear they're pissed off all the time. No particular reason, they just live pissed off. And I think to myself, why would you want to do that? How can you be happy when everything in life is so rigid that everything pisses you off? That's not the way that you're ever going to find happiness if you can't see the light or the good in whatever situation is there. And so this is a particularly fun piece for me. It says, happiness is a condition. It's not something that's achieved by pursuing it directly. Rather, it's something that blossoms through our engagement in purposeful activity. If you're involved and you really get involved in whatever activity is, I believe you can find happiness in whatever that is that you're doing. I think that to say, I have a little story that I tell about I'm walking through a Walmart store here in North Scottsdale, and I literally saw a Walmart employee coming out of the back room and walking as slow as he could possibly walk. You could tell he was headed to the cash registers from the back of the store and headed up to start his day as a cashier. And I just, I thought to myself when I saw that, I mean, he was walking so slow, kind of stopping every few seconds to, check out this item in the store and that item in the store, and just his stance and the way that he held himself, you could tell he was just bored to tears. And I thought to myself, what a sad thing that, he has an opportunity to meet hundreds of new people every day that he could, as an example, if you're really efficient at being a cashier at Walmart, how many times have you been into Walmart where it seemed like it took forever to get through that line? And then, when have you ever had a situation when you had a cashier that just really had a nice, friendly attitude, and it seemed like their line was moving just as quick as possible? And I thought, what a shame that someone doesn't take that opportunity to think, I can really have a smile on my face. I can, maybe Walmart being a cashier isn't where I want to be for the rest of my life, but while I'm here, look at all of the lives I could touch, and I I could make people be really happy about getting in my line and really getting them efficiently through there and doing it with a great smile and touching them every day. I mean, I know that when I go into stores and the person that's waiting on me just has a really friendly attitude, I mean, it warms me up that I want to go. I would like to have that cashier every time I go into that store. And so, you know, what a shame in life that we would be so pissed off, so upset about where we're at in life, that we don't take the opportunity to seize the friendliness of everybody around us, because it's just like anything. If you give out that friendliness, that's what you're going to get back again. If you give out being pissed off, that's what you're going to get back again. Vicki was telling a little story at lunchtime of how she overcame someone that was an irate customer on the phone with her at Southwest Airlines. And, she overcame it by realizing that that person wasn't pissed off at her. They were pissed off about something else. And she was able to, help that person overcome being pissed off and literally change the whole scope of the conversation. So, I really, truly believe that it's just a little bit of a difference in the way that we think about how we respond to whatever it is we're doing in life. If we just respond in a little different way, we learn to think about how do we respond to this in a positive manner. And, if we just start thinking that way more often, we'll start practicing that more often, and it will literally change the way we respond all the time. The law of attraction. I'm a big person of kind of following the laws of life. I didn't used to be early on in life. I always thought I'm a pretty hot shot. I can get away with cutting the rules and cutting the corners, and I'm positive that I know how to do it better. I'm gonna figure out ways to cut corners. And then as I got a little bit older, I thought, you know what? All I did was smack myself in the face some more. If I would have just learned to live with the laws of life, I would have gotten a whole lot farther, a whole lot faster. And so I really lean on that a little bit more these days. And, the law of attraction, there was a big movie out for a few years called The Secret, and it was all about the law of attraction. And, I thought The Secret was a great movie. I thought it was, number one, it was very well done. I mean, it was masterfully put together. But the one thing that they missed was you got to take action. You can't just sit on your sofa and wish for checks to come in the mail and they just come in. You got to get off your ass and you got to go make it happen. And that's the one piece that I felt like they missed, is you got to take some good action in order to get things to happen. But I still believe that we attract things in life that we put out. And so I am a believer in the law of attraction. I just believe that the law of attraction has to be coupled with action in order to make things happen in life. So, inevitably, we attract people and ideas, circumstances, and opportunities that are in harmony with our dominant thoughts. I happen to believe that none of us really, truly can think one thing and produce another result. If you really focus your dominant thoughts on, here's where I'm going, and every day you start thinking, here's where I'm going. Every day you're writing those things down, the direction that you're going, the steps that you have to take. That becomes your dominant thought. and you just naturally feed that to your subconscious, and the more dominant you continue to think about that one thought, the faster you're going to get to that destination. And so, you know, again, if you want to attract the people and the ideas, the circumstances, the opportunity, you've got to have that as your focus in life. And so I really believe that the more we think about that one subject, the faster we're going to get there. The law of correspondence. You know, I know that I've had a few people today tell me that they thought I was a really good speaker. But one thing that I'm going to share with you, when I graduated from the 8th grade, you know, they gave you a battery of aptitude tests. You know, my writing, communicating skills tested 3rd grade 6th month at the 8th grade. So, you know, like I mentioned, when I graduated from high school, I made a conscious decision. I'm going to change my life. I'm not going to just accept my life as it has been. And I literally started educating myself on a whole host of things, but I had the opportunity to start getting asked to speak when I started that manufacturing company at age 24, and I'm sure I was not a great speaker at the time. I don't really remember. That was too long ago for me to remember a whole lot about it, but I've practiced being a good speaker. I've practiced, you know, really being involved with who I'm speaking to. And, you know, one of the things that I like to do is I like to, when I'm having a conversation with somebody, I really like to look them straight in the eyes, and I like to make that connection, you know, soul to soul with somebody so that they know I'm in that conversation with them. I think that's really important in our communication, but, you know, as we communicate with ourselves, that's equally as important. And, you know, what we have, you know, it says my outer world tends to be a mirror of my inner world. What we think controls our life, and what we allow other people to put into our head controls our life. And in reality, I'm the only person that has that choice. What do I let into my head? How do I speak to myself? If I say these outside controls are affecting my life, I'm cheating myself, because I know that it's me that makes the decisions of what I think and how I respond. And if I'm not thinking and not responding in the way that I should be, then I need to teach myself how to respond differently. You know, there again, when I started educating myself to change from being that negative little guy that really was pissed off, I had to start reading everything I could read. I read every Zig Ziglar book. I read every Brian Tracy book. I read every Dennis Waitley book. I read, like I mentioned earlier, Tom Peters, Earl Nightingale. You know, well, it's one I've read so many times. I know the name. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. You know, I literally bombarded myself day after day, reading and listening and studying. So I knew that I needed to change the way that I was thinking. I knew the way that I was reacting to myself needed to change. And so I decided that it was me and my responsibility that was going to educate myself to think differently. And so, you know, that's why I say your outer world is a direct mirror of your inner world. And if you want to change what's going on in your outer world, you got to change the way you're speaking to yourself and the way that you're expecting things to be different when you're not changing any of what you're doing. The law of substitution. You know, this is the very same thing I was just saying. My conscious mind can only hold one thought at a time. You know, you can't be, if you're telling yourself every morning, I like myself, I love my life, I'm excited, I'm happy, if you're verbalizing those things to yourself, you cannot have as much negativity. That your mind can't hold two different thoughts at one time. So if you continue to repeat that to yourself day after day, year after year, I mean, I realize that most of you don't know me, but I'm telling you, I was a negative little kid. And I totally have changed that about my life. I'm happy every day. I mean, I remember just a few weeks ago, I was talking to Kelly, and she said, you know, how is it that you don't get pissed off as much as you used to get pissed off? And I said, well, you know, hopefully I've grown as a human being, and I'm getting away from some of those negative habit patterns. And I said, don't you think you've seen the difference in me? And she said, yeah, I have. But you know, I just now hitting me, you know, you don't get pissed off like you used to get pissed off. And so, you know, I just changed what I wanted out of my life, and I changed what I wanted for relationships, and I changed how I wanted to be responded to, so I decided to change how I responded to the rest of the world. And so there again, I'm going back to the same thing. I educated myself. I started more and more reading of, you know, how do I manage my temper? How do I manage the way that I'm thinking and speaking to myself so that I'm choosing a different response in my life?